Forbes Gemmell from Discovery Silver. Welcome back. Well, actually, it's not welcome back for you. We had Discovery, you had your colleague here, Gurno, 2 years ago. Last year, I think you couldn't come because you were pretty busy with the transaction, which I'm going to ask you about in a minute. But firstly, what do you think about the Italian Riviera?
Very impressed. Even the year before, I wasn't able to make it. So
Yeah.
like consider this third time lucky, but you can say lucky when you look at the backdrop here.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously great to be here and long overdue.
And most importantly is Mrs. Gemmell, is Maureen happy? Is she happy here? She wants to come back as well?
Yeah, she's been rather impressed.
Good.
So, definitely tick that box.
Good, Forbes. So as you know, I'm Simon Catt from Catt Calls in Arlington. Thanks for joining us. Could you, in the last year, I mean, I don't think there's too many mining companies that have been as rewarding for shareholders as Discovery Silver. Can you talk to us about why that has been and about your role in the company and maybe how that's changed or not over the last year?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. And even if you go back to when I joined the company, which is at the start of 2020, we just acquired the Cordero project, which had been an unloved project in Mexico, but certainly a huge silver resource. We spent a lot of money over a number of years and advanced that to the feasibility study stage. But we were in the permitting process, and some degree the future success of the company was tied up with, the political situation in Mexico and the permit. I suppose a little slow in moving forward there, and during the period, and probably about 2 years ago, Tony McCouch joined us as CEO, and I think we then started looking at opportunities to acquire operating assets or unloved or overlooked assets. And Newmont, as you know, went through the sales process, and our focus through the assets they put up for sale with the assets in Timmins. Tony's born and bred there and knows those assets very well and operated a number of those mines. So for us, I mean, it turned out to be a fantastic pivot. It was a busy year last year with all the negotiations and back and forth with Newmont, but we announced a deal in January. We closed in April. And for us, it really, I think, ticks a lot of boxes. These are assets that are undercapitalized and underexplored. And so our focus coming in now is putting the investment in the ground, in the mines and at the mill, and then ramping up with a very aggressive exploration program. And really, when you look at, I suppose, Tony's track record at Corruption Lake and Lakeshore, this is a blueprint. Taking assets that have been overlooked or underinvested by bigger companies and putting that money to work and generating spectacular returns for shareholders. And we feel we're in very early innings of that phase. There's a lot more opportunity in front of us here to build us up.
Yeah, I mean, I think about right deal, right team, right place. I mean, I think of the companies I know of that bought those gold assets from Newmont in the last year, they've all been spectacular home runs for shareholders, including Discovery. So if Discovery bought those assets, when, Forbes, and what were the key milestones for shareholders in the last year or so since you bought them? And then where do we go in the next year?
Yeah, so we announced the transaction in January. We closed the transaction in the middle of April.
Okay.
And then just last month, we put out our first quarter as a gold producer. Solid operating performance, significant free cash flow. So we already had a pretty good start out the gates. I mean, we haven't even owned these assets for 6 months now, but when you look ahead at what's coming, we're ramping up close to 20 drill rigs. So a very big drill program, 140,000.
20 drill rigs?
Yeah.
20?
20.
Oh my God, that's the biggest drill program I've ever heard of.
Yeah, so I mean, we're sitting in one of the most prolific gold districts globally. I mean, more than 70 million ounces mined. I think when you look at drill programs previously, probably 4 to 5 million being spent per year, we're going to be more like 50 to 60 million.
Jesus.
So expect to see, starting the fourth quarter, first sets of exploration results starting to come out. There should be a regular cadence from then onwards with exploration news. And then we're reporting our quarterly updates, obviously now on an ongoing basis. But I suppose some big catalysts when you look ahead to next year. One, we're going to be looking at updating our technical report. When we announced the acquisition, we didn't have time to really reflect all the opportunities we identified in our due diligence process. And the big ones are really getting the mining rates up, getting the milling rates up, and with that, the costs have come down. So we want to be able to articulate with either a reserve and resource update or a technical report update next year. In addition to that, we have two large-sized deposits that don't really feature in the valuation of discovery right now. One being Dome. There's 11 million ounce resource there that sits next to a mill in Northern Ontario, and that's a company maker in itself. And we feel we get little to no value for Dome. So
Right.
look at getting an update out on there. As well as TVZ, a large underground deposit that sits next to Hall Pond, one of the underground mines. If you're getting an inaugural resource estimate out there next year. So there's a lot ahead of us between those major catalysts plus the exploration use, as well as just optimizing the operations there.
Yeah, it's quite amazing to reflect on the journey you've come on in a year. Like a year ago, you were capitalized at about $300 million. Today, the market cap of Discovery is over $3 billion.
Right. Yeah.
And what is the potential for? So you mentioned Dome. That's not in your current production outlook because you haven't done the work yet. And you mentioned TVZ zone. So what could the production of Discovery be in the coming years?
So look, one other opportunity we're looking at is expanding the mill at Dome. So right now, the Dome mill, which there's 3 operating mines that feed that mill.
Okay.
That runs around 12,000 tonne a day. And so our production profile right now is around 200,000 ounces. Pamour, which is the open pit, that's ramping up. That'll take production to around 350,000 ounces. But what we're looking at doing with the mill is actually expanding the mill to get to 30,000 tonne a day from 12,000.
Okay,
So
it's almost 3 times.
3x. And that now creates a processing capacity to bring the Dome mine, which sits next door to the mill, online.
Wow.
There's a conceptual pit. We have to run with the pit shells, but there's probably a good 5-6 million ounces that we can process within that pit without impacting the milling infrastructure that sits next door. So you now bring Dome online at that high throughput rate, you've probably got production up around 500 to 600,000 ounces. And then you've obviously got Cordero in the background, which if we get that permitted to move that forward, I mean, we could be a 1 million ounce gold equivalent producer within 4 to 5 years' time.
Wow, by 2030.
From 200,000 ounces to right now.
Wow.
An absolutely spectacular road profile, all from assets that we hold within our.
Do you need anything? Does Discovery need anything else to get to potentially double gold production in Canada? Firstly, like, do you need money? Do you need resources? You mentioned you want to expand the mill. When do you make those decisions to expand to 500,000 ounces if the numbers check out?
So look, the main expenses in Canada would be expanding the mill and then bringing the Dome pit online.
Okay.
So I think as part of our updates next year, we'll be pricing up the capital needs for that. Sequencing wise, it works out quite well. The initial focus will be on the mill. We can utilize a lot of the existing infrastructure of the mill, so maybe it's early days, but maybe the cost of that expansion would be somewhere in that $250 to $300 million range, which would give you a spectacular return on investment when you look at what it can bring to the table as far as production goes. And then the Dome pit, we've got to look at the pre-strip requirements there, but that could be 300 to 400 million, but very early stages, we need to sort of run the numbers there.
Okay.
But that would be mostly spent half to get the mill online, because now you can start bringing that.
What is Discovery generating in cash flow, either operating cash flow or free cash flow at the moment from your existing production?
So, I mean, very rough numbers, if you assume we're producing just north of 200,000 ounces, the AISC right now is around $2,000 an ounce.
Okay.
So call that a $1,700 margin. So that should be pre-tax, free growth capital, 340 million of capital.
Wow.
That AISC should come down once we sort of get the capital investment, get the mill throughput up. That'll bring the costs down on the processing side, and we'll invest in the underground mines in particular to get those mining rates up. So we expect that AISC to come down.
Okay.
Significantly.
Okay, so Canada, you can double production, which is pretty amazing, and that can then become a tier 1 gold mine again, which is what Newmont, in theory, were divesting non-tier one gold mines, but they just left a tier one gold mine behind. So that sounds like what big companies do. Good for Discovery shareholders, good for you, Forbes. What about Mexico?
So Mexico, look, we're sitting on a pretty spectacular deposit. You've obviously followed very closely over the years. Our feasibility study, which was January of last year, we put out with 35 silver. Silver's a lot higher now, but NPV of almost $2.5 billion. So the permit went in. The main permit's there. The EIA, or the MIA in Mexico, is what it's known as. That went in middle of 2023. Went through this legal and technical review, and so we're optimistic. Hopefully, in the next few months here, we'll see that permit green-lighted
Before the end of the year.
Yeah, there has been obviously a new president, Claudia Sheinbaum's come in towards the end of last year. I think initial priority has been to clear the backlog of brownfield type permits since she's come in, but I feel that greenfield permits are now going to come into focus and should start moving by the end of the year.
Yeah, well, look, as you mentioned, Forbes, I followed Cordero closely. I've actually been to the project in June, and I think the sense I got was if there's one asset, if there's one important new mine in Mexico, which is exactly what President Sheinbaum wants, it processes water from the town of Parral, it gives water back to the town, it uses the wastewater, recycles it, gives the town fresh water. There's an agricultural project, I believe, which it goes to supply, and also, of course, the future Cordero mine. If there's one company that gives the president everything she wants in terms of responsible, sustainable mining, Cordero seems to fit that description.
Yeah, look, and from what we're hearing, the key focus for any greenfield project is going to be are there any environmental sensitivities? Are there impacted indigenous communities? And then what's the local social support for the project like? And you've been to Parral. It's
an old mining town, yeah.
Back centuries.
Exists for silver.
Yeah, particularly strong support there locally. Environmentally, water is probably the key sensitivity, as you flagged, and our projects, there's a water treatment plant in Parral that needs upgrading, and we're proposing to come in and invest the capital to upgrade that treatment plant and use a portion of that discharge water as our primary source of water for the mine. So I think that's a big tick of the box in terms of and a win-win, I think for Mexico and the project itself, in terms of our water usage and how we're going to go about that. And you've been to the project site itself. It's a pretty benign, homogeneous landscape. There's no real impacted communities that are locally there. And then Parral's so we're going to be our source of labor. It's actually a central base for other mines in the region. So it's a pretty good backdrop in terms of being able to take a project forward and having that social support. And given there aren't any specific environmental sensitivities, I think they're well positioned. In addition to obviously the size of the project, and this is going to be one of the world's biggest silver mine. It's going to create a lot of jobs. It's going to have a huge economic impact in the region and as well as federally within Mexico.
So Forbes, that's a lot to take in. Can I just recap that? So starting in Canada, you think over the next 3 to 5 years, you can double production from 200,000 or 300,000 ounces to 500 or 600. You've got one of the world's top mining guys, Tony McCooch and his team, who've done it all before. They've got lots of shares, management's invested in the company. So they've got everything they need to actually get to the next stage, except for maybe do the work on the studies to expand the mill, etc. So you double production, you become a tier one gold producer, producing, presumably you double the cash flow. So suddenly instead of doing 300 or 400 million of cash flow, you're doing almost $1 billion of cash flow at lower costs at the current gold prices. And by the end of this calendar year, 2025, you can potentially get a permit, and that will unlock the world's largest silver reserve and a future 20 million ounce a year silver producer, as well as the gold. Is that right?
Summed it up perfectly.
And is there anything else shareholders or potential Discovery shareholders should know, Forbes?
No, that's it. I mean, it's going to be, I think we're all really excited internally what lies ahead. I mean, like I said, we could be 4 or 5 years at a 1 million ounce gold equivalent producer.
Wow.
2 great jurisdictions, obviously Ontario and Mexico. And now it's focusing on executing on that plan, and we feel that we've got the right management team and group to be able to do that. So exciting times ahead.
Good. Well, Forbes, we hope you'll come back and tell us about it next year at the Arlington Rapallo and enjoy the Italian Riviera. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Cheers.
Thanks, buddy.